Greetings, everyone. I wanted to show you a little exercise that I did, a little tarot exercise I did for a project I've been working on with a group of friends here on Facebook. We're following Nancy Hendrickson. She has written a couple books here. This book is Creating a Personal Book of Shadows based on our ancestries, asking, if we have questions like, where did we get some of our powers from? Why am I interested in magic? Why am I interested in tarot? Why am I an empath? Or how did I get these psychic abilities? Or all this interest in herbcraft or whatever. She has a very wonderful little book here that she has written called the Ancestor Grimoire, which gives you exercises. Actually, we're working through the year, doing different kind of divination exercises, including a lot of tarot, including a lot of, there's pendulum work and other kind of divination, which is, it's really kind of fun. And she also has another book that she wrote before that, which is all about learning about ancestors of blood, ancestors of place, ancestors of time. And it's just a fun little thing we're doing. And I thought I would get involved. I've been involved with this since the end of last year, actually, after we did an event called Witch Talk on Facebook, where we looked at a lot of divination methods and things. And one of the things that we need to do in order to create our Ancestor Grimoire is to select tools, of course. And as far as tarot goes, we are, encouraged to select a couple decks, regular tarot cards, maybe some Lenormand oracle cards, those kind of things, but particularly cards which might relate to our ancestry, right? That might answer some of our questions about history or things like that. And I was right away, of course. I knew right away some of the decks that I would use for that, of course. Like, for instance, the Santa Muerte I've shown you on here many times. I usually use that around Samhain. A lot of us do. It actually provides messages from ancestors in the deck. So, of course, that's kind of a no-brainer. Also, I wanted to work with, of course, the Wildwood Tarot. It's a very earthy deck. You've seen me use it a lot here on my channel. So that was kind of a no-brainer, but I was looking for some decks that I could use with them. So I wanted some things that played well together. Now, you do know, you've also seen me on here. I have a trilogy of crow decks, which I work together with all the time. One is more shadow, one is more light, and one is an oracle card I call my narrative among crows. You can, of course, search that here on the channel as well to see how I use those in combination. But other than that, I don't normally combine cards. So that was number one. That was my number one, my number one task that I had to accomplish before I could proceed with the grimoire. So I was not sure what to do because I have a lot of decks that I really like. They read well, but do they work well together? I wasn't sure. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to say is, well, here, let me show you. I'm going to move some of these things. I want to show you my grimoire so that you get an idea of what it is that I'm going to be trying to what I'm going to be trying to use them for. Okay. And here's the grimoire. I'm just starting in here. I don't think you can see it too well. But I'm looking at, ancestry. Who are you? Well, here I am. It's just a book. Well, let me show you from the beginning what I have so far. These are some things that I started with in October at Witch Talk. And I did some readings with that to try to find a guide. I was looking for a guide who would help me. And then Jessica Starr talked to us about, our traditions, some of our traditions. And then, of course, I just put a blank here for my ancestor, my tree here. I do have a lot of information on a lot of my ancestors, which I'm going to fill in. But it only goes back to, depending on where it is, it's only going back to a few places. Okay, but I wanted to know if these are going to work together. That was my big deal. Okay, so here you see I did do an interview, and it was with the Wild Unknown Tarot, and I'm going to talk to you about that in just a minute. Here's the deck. Here's the deck. Okay, and first of all, why would I choose this deck? That's a really good question. If you've been around me at all and watched any of my tarot videos in the last, I think I've been on YouTube about 10 years now, you know I have a pretty strong dislike for using what I would call pip decks. And the Wild Unknown is kind of what we would call a pip deck. You know, here we go. You know, here we have the Seven of Pentacles. Exactly, Seven of Pentacles, right? Here we have the, let's see, something else. Here we have the Five of Cups. There's a beautiful horse. But what does it have to do with the Five of Cups? We're really not sure, right? We're really not sure on some of these. So, here we have the Eight of Cups. Whoops, it's upside down. Is it even upside down? No, it's, I don't even know what that is. See, I'm not even sure. Some of them are a little bit, you know, here, they don't really give you a really good... This is normally the kind of deck I'm trying to say that I would just stay away from. I wouldn't really hardly even watch this deck. Well, use it. I mean, it's pretty. Some of the, oh, the images are lovely in some of these cards. They're just absolutely lovely. And that was my dilemma. I saw somebody using this deck, and I just thought, well, I was curious. I was absolutely curious about it. But then to make matters worse, somebody was doing something on YouTube using the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit Oracle deck, okay? Which, oh my goodness, what happened to me? I'm not even sure. These were the most glorious, glorious images of everything from the animal world. And oh my goodness, I just fell in love. I fell in love with the images. And on top of that, I was having so many signs or omens, you might call them, in my life and in my dreams where I was being called to some of these animals that I have not been called to before. This was happened to me back in October. We were, of course, paying a lot of attention to the omen days at the end of the year. And I requested this deck for your gift. And I got it for your gift, and I was really happy with it. But the more I worked with it, and the more I worked with the energies and the cards, I thought, well, you know, I'd really like to work with this deck. I think I'd really like to work with this deck for my Ancestor Grimoire, but will it go with my other decks that I've chosen? So that was my dilemma. So therefore, I said, I'm going to buy the tarot deck, and I'm going to see if I can use it. Because, of course, these are made to go together. They just are. They're just these two decks, you know. It's a beautiful marriage. That's what they were intended to. They were by the same person, of course. But I needed to see, yeah, I knew I was going to get energies from this one. But how was it going to be for me from that? What was going to happen when I tried to use these cards? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I did. I'm going to show you my interview. Now, this, oops, sorry. They're very slippery. This is one thing I don't like, that they're very slippery. But one thing I do like, before I put this aside, I want to show you, those of you who have been following my channel at all, know that I say, decks that will not shuffle, I don't have much use for. And look at the beautiful way this deck shuffles. Oh, I fell in love with that. Because how it feels in your hand, to me, is so important. And if I can handle them without them going all over the room, or without having to divide them into 30 piles to shuffle them, I am a happy camper. I'm a happy tarot reader. Right? Okay. So I want to tell you something. Why did I want to do an interview? Okay, I fell in love with the shuffle. I fell in love with the imagery. But why do I want to conduct Why do I want to conduct a an interview? What is an interview really about? Okay, and that's what I want to talk to you about right now. What is that interview really about? Sometimes people, in an interview, first of all, if you would Google interviewing a tarot deck on the internet, you would find all kinds of different spreads to use in order to ask questions of the deck that you wanted to question. Okay, that's not a problem. That's not a problem. It's there. It's very commonly done. But the question is, why is it very commonly done? Because for most of us who read tarot, I believe, for most of us who read tarot, I think we are, in order to know how a deck is going to work with us, we simply start working with it, right? We just simply start reading it. And that's normally what I do, okay? But the problem I was coming up with this deck, if I was going to lay out cards like I do for a reading, okay, let's just say I lay out 3 cards. Okay, I have 3 cards there. This is a typical reading, 3 cards. I have I don't even know what I have here. I'm not even sure what these cards are. I would have to look and see. Here I have the Moon card. Here I have the 9 of Wands. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 9 of Wands. And here I would have the 6 of Wands. And it's very hard to see. It's very hard to see that, but I think that's the 6 of Wands. Okay. They don't read to me. They don't play with each other the way a regular, what I would call regular, an illustrated pip deck, an illustrated pips, something like the Wildwood Tarot or the, any illustrated pip, illustrated minors, let's call them illustrated minors. They talk to each other. They might look at each other. They might, you can see the relationship. With something like this, it's not quite as easy to see a relationship for me. Now, some of you say, oh, I see that right away. Well, that's good because that's the kind of reader you are, and I really admire you to be able to do that. But for me, even though I know what the cards mean, and I can put together, of course, a reading from this pretty easily, I want to tell you that the cards themselves do not seem to play off of each other that well. Okay. It's a whole new skill set. Some people read pip decks, what we call pip decks, which are just, this is an illustrated pip in a little way, but not an illustrated minor because it still mostly depends on, for many things, 2, 1, 2 swords. Right. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pentacles. That's what we call pips. Okay. So I wasn't sure if that was going to hurt me or not in my interview. So I decided to go ahead and interview the cards because what I wanted to do, I didn't want to know if you're going to work well for me in a reading. I wanted to know, are you going to work good for me, well for me in my grimoire? When I want to know, questions about my ancestors or questions about, the situation that they might have lived in or the magic they might have performed, I have some questions that some specific questions I'm going to be asking. So it's not like I have to formulate a reading so much because I think these do give me the courtesy, if I can say, of, giving me something to read. Giving me something to read. I think it is. I think it's going to, I think it's going to work. So anyway, I'm not sure. So this is the reason that I decided, okay, I'm going to look at the questions given to me in an interview, and I'm going to see how well they play, how well this answers. Okay, and that's exactly what I did. And so I'm going to show you what I did and what I got, the answers that I got, asking specific questions in an interview form, and then trying to interpret how that answering my question of how well this deck is going to play for me in my Ancestor Grimoire exercise I'm going to be participating in in 2023. Okay, so I'm going to just change my camera here for a minute so that I can get new things here and show you what I was going to do. And I'll show you the interview that I had, that I conducted with the Wild Unknown Tarot. Okay? When it came down to interviewing the Wild Unknown Tarot, I didn't have any kind of a special layout. As you can see, I just have my cards here in my book. Just laid down so I could see them clearly. And then I just asked the questions in my book. But because it really wasn't a relationship, it wasn't a kind of a reading where we want to care about the relationship of the cards. Okay, so the very first question I asked, my question was, tell me about yourself. What is your most important characteristic? When I saw the Father of Wands come up, I was put off a little bit because it was a snake. But then I realized I got the other court cards out, and all of the court cards in the suit of Wands are snakes. Okay, here we have the Daughter of Wands. And then we have the Son of Wands and the Mother of Wands, which is actually quite sweet, wrapped around her eggs. I kind of like that. And then the Father of Wands, which does make, perfect sense, I think, because stinging, fire, stinging, whatever. But anyway, some people really like snakes, so I was gonna be open-minded about this. Okay, back to my interview. The Father of Wands. Tell me about yourself. Okay, the Father of Wands. In this deck, the artist, the creator speaks of the Father of Wands, of course, as being charismatic and creative, a man of charisma, others drawn to him naturally, and he welcomes them with an open and loving heart. Okay, so he's deeply connected. And in tune with life, and he's compassionate. And now I'm looking, how will that help me as a reading? Well, he plays well with others, so I'm going to try to put him together with, other decks. He plays well. He's in tune with life, which is exactly what we're looking at. We're looking at the cycling of my ancestors through the ages. And he's really steady. He's dependable, which gives me a feeling that this deck is dependable. Okay. Now, I hope you're catching on to the fact that I'm not taking the meaning from the meaning of the card necessarily without applying how that answers my question that I'm asking it. Okay. What is your most important characteristic to work with me so I may judge whether I want to work with you in this Ancestor Grimoire project? In tarot, the most important thing that a lot of beginning readers forget is they forget their question. They get carried away with what the card means or whatever, or how it, what it's beside or whatever, but they don't pay attention to what did you ask that question? What is the question you asked of the card? That's very, very important. So when I ask this question, what's your most important characteristic? Tell me about yourself. This deck is applying for a job. Tell me about yourself, and a future employer might ask, what's your most important characteristic? What can you contribute to my company? What can you contribute to my Ancestor Grimoire project is what I'm asking. So far it looks pretty good. Okay. The second one I'm asking is, what are your strengths? What are your strengths as a deck? And I come up with the Temperance card. The Temperance card, really a nice, lovely card. As you can see, the little heron. This is supposed to be the blue heron, represented the blue heron. The heron is Temperance in this deck talks about is a good balancing card, a moderator between fire and water, the elements, opposing waters of fire and elements. And I thought that was interesting because those of you who know me know that I'm a triple Cancer. I'm very watery. When I interviewed my guide, looking for my guide in October to help me along this way during Witchstock, we looked for a guide, and I found the King of Cups as my guide. So that's another watery thing. And if I'm looking at my answers, I'm probably going to find a lot of other people that are intuitive or empathic or whatever. a lot of cup energy I'm probably going to find. So this is probably good to balance out some of the cup energy that I might find present in my family. So that was good. Also, the heron, the blue heron here that we see in this picture, I did some research, and it's known to stand at the threshold of many things for different cultures. And some cultures believe the heron stands at the threshold and is able to travel back and forth, as a lot of other animals do, between the spirit world and our world here. So that's a really important characteristic if that's what we want to see. When I'm talking about relatives, people, not only people who have passed it, even maybe some of my past lives, which I might be getting into later. Okay, so the Temperance card also will help me guard against excessives, which I think you can imagine. If you've watched my channel at all for any time, I think you can learn pretty fast that I am a person who goes into excessives. Like I dive into this project. Yeah, a lot of us who dove into the project, some of the things we're doing for this project are kind of excessive and not necessary, but we do them anyway because that's the way we do things. When I dive into a subject like tarot or you know, anything, I go all into it. I go into my garden. I go into my cooking. I go, you know, anything creative. I really go all in, and I tend to kind of get lost in there sometimes. The Temperance card might help keep me in balance, might keep these energies in balance for me just a little bit. So that would be really helpful if that is the case. Okay. The third question I asked of this deck, I asked, well, what are your limits? We know now your strengths, but what are your limits? And I got a very interesting card. I got the 8 of Pentacles. And in this deck, it is portrayed as a spider in a web, which right away, to me, you know, everybody knows this spider has, oh my goodness, so the most beautiful, intricate weaving of this web. And they're just, and a lot of some of the spiders are, you know, you tear down their web and it's right back. It's just right back. It's something, and a black widow spider, for instance, it's hard to even destroy the web. It's so strong for making something from such a tiny little thread to creating something so strong. So you wouldn't ordinarily think of that as a weakness. What are your limits? What is a limit? Well, that's what I asked of the card. So this is another example of we need to remember the question. Okay, so first I'm going to look at this card, and I'm going to see that the 8 of Pentacles is talking about someone who's a master of the craft, and she keeps weaving no matter what. She dives into it 100% and pays attention to so many details, all the details, okay, because you just want to become really good at what you're doing. Well, isn't that what we just talked about with the Temperance card? This card is, the limits are, this card is going to lead me into all these rabbit holes. I see them as rabbit holes. To become the mastery, to be able to really understand the ancestral link between myself and my ancestors. There's a magical link. There's going to be a lot of answers given to me, and I've got to be able to just stick to what I need to know. I just need to be able to stick to that. I have to guard against, you know, falling down too many things. Don't worry about everything. Just what is it that I'm trying to find out right now, and sticking to that, okay? And keeping my goals clear. My goals clear. Like the spider, she keeps her goal clear. She's going to weave that web. That's her goal. And no matter what you do to it, she's going to weave it. That's the part of this card I have to remember. Okay, I have to remember. It is stick to the goal. Stick to the goal. Okay. The fourth question I asked of the Wild Unknown Tarot is, what are you here to teach me? And I love this, the 3 of Wands. I love the 3 of Wands a lot. 3 of Wands is something that we're probably going to be naming our bus. If you're going to follow along on that adventure, that's an adventure to come. But the 3 of Wands is a really lovely card because the 3 of Wands is all about the future. Well, how does that help me when we're going backwards? Aren't we going backwards? Well, no. We're going into cycles. We're going to this deck, first of all, is I'm working with all of my ancestors in the past, those who I share something in common I can discover, and even discover my own past, so that we may also look forward. We may send these this information forward into the future. It takes all of us together to do that. Okay. But it's also wanting to tell me that, yes, it takes everybody working together. Sometimes it takes a village, the Three of Wands says. But what's your goal? What is the goal? Okay. Where do you see yourself? Where do I see myself by the end of 2023? I see myself understanding a lot about where I came from, the people that I came from, what kind of gifts they have passed on to me, and what gifts I have to pass on to my future generations to come, or to carry with me into my next life. Okay. If I can keep my goals, here we are again, clarifying, keeping that goal inside, keeping that goal into the vision, right? And don't worry about other people. Don't worry about other people. Already, when we were building our grimoires, oh my goodness, I'll have to show you, I'll do another video and show you. Somebody said, well, I'm making a supplemental deck so I can identify, some information about my ancestors, which is suggested to us by Nancy Hendrickson when she wrote the book. But, somebody, of course, posted a video of just really elaborate card. So right away I thought, I have to make a really elaborate card too. Or, it's these kind of things, falling into things. Or I had to have a board for casting charms or for doing pendulum work or whatever. My tendency is to go overboard and to go in another place. But this card is saying, remember your goal. What is your goal? Okay. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Worry about what you're doing. Okay. No one else is going to live this experience, my experience, but me. So it has to be for me, about me, not about what other people are doing. So I really like that card a lot. So that's a good lesson. The fifth question that I asked was, how can I best collaborate with you? How can I what's the best approach to working with you as a deck in this experience? Well, it showed me the Nine of Cups. Which, oh my goodness, the Nine of Cups, even, we all know this, even you can't really tell it from this deck, but the Nine of Cups, this is known as the wish card in most decks in tarot. It's all about, what do you wish for? Wishes come true. When this card appears, worries and fears will be cast away. It's a new way, it's a time of balance, and the world's good for you, good health, all these things are happening. What does that have to do with the tarot deck? What does that have to do with working with the Wild Unknown Tarot? Again, we have to remember the question that we asked. And the question we asked are, how can you work with me best? How can I work with you best? Well, this is telling me, when you really need something, when you really need to know something, where you're having trouble finding out the information you need, I'm your ticket. I'm your ticket to that, right? I'm your ticket. Count on me to give you what you need. Count on me to help you find the information you're looking for. Count on me when you say things like, oh, I wish I knew if this was on my mother's side, my father's side, or am I wishful thinking? Is this a true thing? Ask me. Ask me, this deck is saying. Okay. That's so refreshing. This is a good exercise for everybody if you're going to interview a deck in this way, because you make it answer the question that you're asking. Okay. And finally, what is the potential outcome of our working relationship? Well, this was wonderful. This was wonderful because look what I got. I got the Two of Cups. Two of Cups. And the Two of Cups is all about the two. All about the two. It could be a romance, but it's also just all about a good partnership, a really good partnership. It's a good connection. Okay. It points also to the beginning of a good relationship or a good friendship, which is especially good for me in the question I'm asking of a new deck. And it also says, either way, the connection between you will be pure, honest, and solid. Okay, pure, honest, and solid. A solid connection. Well, that's all I can ask for. That's all I can hope for. Okay. So, I don't know if this interests you in any way. I don't know if it interests you if you're not, working on the Ancestor Grimoire that I am. It shouldn't matter, because I'm saying that we want to be able to answer. We want our decks. Remember, our decks, they can be as beautiful as anything we've ever seen. Okay, some of these images are so glorious, and some of these decks we just love for whatever reason. But they're a tool. They're a tool first and foremost. So if they are not used as a tool, they are of no use to us. They have to be a tool first. So trust your deck to give you the answers that you're seeking. But remember, when you are reading their answers, what your question was. Make sure it applies back to your question, and we'll be fine. Okay. Hope this was okay. Hope this was fun. And we'll do some more tarot again in the future. In the meantime, I am Rebecca. Thank you so much for watching. I wish you all blessings.